Hey, YouTube. This is Kim Alexander with Moms of Black Boys United, and I want to welcome you to Free-ish. It's Juneteenth, and a lot of people are off, and it's a federal holiday that happened in recent years, and um, we are experiencing the recognition of Juneteenth and the idea that we won our freedom. Um, but I can't help but reminisce on so many things that I've covered or done a podcast about, or people who I know that have experienced being locked up, um, innocent or harshly sentenced for crimes simply because they were black men, black women. And so as I reflect on what Juneteenth means and the notoriety that this day is receiving, I can't help but have the conversation about being free-ish because that's how I feel. Join me in the comments. Let me know what you're thinking about Juneteenth. First of all, tell me if your company is recognizing it, or are you off? You know, were you given this federal holiday? Um, when you talk to people around you, do they know what it is? Do they know what it's about? Are people tuning into what it means to us as the Black population, to be free-ish? Um, I want to reminisce on some things. I want to go back to some things, some older things, some new things. Tell me what you're thinking about out there. I remember the young man Christopher Smith, and he is in the DC area. Mother was a police officer for PG County, and he was convicted twice wrongfully because he fit the description. Um, this young man spent 20 years getting his life back. Let's hear a little bit about what he has to say.
Now, this what I tell people, right? Because I had one of my coworkers tell me today. She seen the post. She said, "Man, congratulations, you turned your life around." I said, "I ain't turned my life around." Y'all be missing the point. Like, if that was the case, they gave me plenty of cops to say, "Hey, oh, you get this right here, and you'll be, you know." I'm talking about. I wasn't in the car. You know what I'm saying? I didn't have play no parts. Now, I think some people, because they so used to this type of stuff, that they think that, oh, you wasn't not used to it. When they hear somebody, they're like, oh, no, you was driving. You know what I'm saying? You ain't do it, but you was driving. No, I wasn't nowhere near. You knew nothing about it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Until it came to me, where it affected me directly.
So let's go on. Let's move on to, okay. So you get probation. You spend a year in jail. You come home. First of all, what was that first release like? So you're home, and now you're a convicted felon. Tell us a little bit about that re-entry process for you. You're 19 at the time, right? About 19, maybe almost 20.
I was 20. I was 20. I was like 18, 19 when I got locked up. I was 20 when I came home.
Okay, so you're 20 years old. You're a convicted felon for a crime you did not commit, and you are now trying to re-enter the world in a pivotal time in your life. So tell me what that looks like for you.
It's crazy. I'm explaining to you why it's crazy, right? On my father's side, it's a little different. But my mother's side, my mother's side has a lot of, you know, what you'll call middle class the black family, well off family, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where you got degrees and you got careers and like people that's just doing well, right? Now here I got a lot of cousins too that's around my age, and you got the back up like 2 seconds. They put me on the max block, right? Where I'm watching men that killed their wives.
So I have to stop this right here for a second because I want to give you guys some context. If you didn't get to see Christopher Smith, this young man is 5'8" ish, maybe 130 pounds, soaking wet with rocks in his pocket. He's talking about right now the family that he comes from. His mom is who's pictured here, Regina, and she is a retired police officer. She still works in the PD. Um, his family is affluent. They lived in a middle class neighborhood. This young man got a knock on the door out of nowhere. And the police started asking him questions. And because he trusted police officers, his mom is a police officer, he has other officers in his family, he willingly answered the questions. And it's like, okay, well, come with us. Unbeknownst to him, that would be the day that he didn't come home for a year. And that was the culmination of 20 years where it took him that long to reclaim his name. At the end of all of that, he's now a father and owns some horses and won his name back so that he could become a DC firefighter. But he was never exonerated. And of all of the conversation that we had that day, we were on for an hour and 15 minutes. And I think that was the most hurtful part of the conversation. The most hurtful part of the conversation was being in a situation where he didn't get his apology. They knew they were wrong. Go back and listen to this podcast because it's heartbreaking. They knew they were wrong, but he didn't get a dime. Nobody cut him a check. We talk a lot. I'm gonna clear this real quick, and stop sharing this clip because we talk about when someone disrespects us, right? And the hood in me says, make sure your apology was as loud as your disrespect. But Christopher Smith didn't get that loud apology. He didn't. Nobody gave him a dime. Nobody paid for him to go to school. Nobody gave him back the years that he lost fighting for his freedom. And moreover than all of that, nobody gave him help with the trauma. Later on in the podcast, he talks about the trauma, the hurt that he feels, and not knowing where to put it. He's a girl dad. He got little girls, and he's trying to find ways to figure it out on his own without any help from anybody else. And this might be a little known story to you guys, but I want to jump now to a story we all know, right? We all know about the Central Park Five. We all know about the Harlem Nights that the world, so many people in the world turned their back on them when they were just children. They were scooped up and picked up and basically thrown away. Of the five of them, Corey Wise spent 13 years in prison. Antron lost his mother while he was incarcerated. The woman who had him 10 toes down, the woman who, just went to bat for him, he never recovered from that. Yusef Salam, a friend of the organization, we've had the pleasure of talking to him several times. The man is so encouraging to see him never let the system extinguish his light. Never, ever, ever, ever. Is so uplifting. He is an example to people everywhere of how to heal. Dope individual. We had him on last year about this time in July. He talked to myself and a young man named Jordan Pierre. Go to our YouTube page, Mob United YouTube page. If you have not seen it, you missed it. But I want to play a clip of him talking to Al Sharpton about Trump's conviction. If you remember when these young men were arrested, falsely accused of this rape and attempted murder, Donald Trump took out a full-page ad in the newspaper, not just calling for their conviction, but calling for their death. Let me know if you remember that. If you're on and you're from New York, I know you do. I grew up in Harlem. I remember it firsthand. I lived in that neighborhood. I remember the transformation that came after the Central Park jogger case. I remember feeling like if it's them, then it could be us, and it could be my brother, and it could be my uncle, and it could be anybody as I was growing up in the projects. But let's look to the words of Yusef Salam, because he is moving, and he is a light when so many called for him to remain in darkness. And I'm proud to say that he is not only Dr. Yusef Salam, but he is he is Councilman Yusef Salam. So let's see what he had to say. I'm going to share my screen again.
Is, and I say this proudly, New York City Councilman Yusef Salam, a Democrat, and one of the Central Park Five, now the exonerated five. Councilman Salam, we appreciate you joining us tonight. Let me go specifically to this. In 1989, Donald Trump took out newspaper ads here in New York calling for the death for you and 4 other Black and Latino teenagers after you were arrested and charged with a rape and murder of a white woman in Central Park that none of you committed. You were not exonerated till 2002. You did several years in jail. Others did as well. And Kari Weiss, who you know works closely with us, National Action Network, would be on my radio show in the morning, did 13 years before you all were exonerated. Now, since then, Trump, even as president, has never acknowledged or admitted he was wrong in your case. This week, he was convicted of a felony that could mean prison time for the former president in the same very court complex that you were sentenced in, as well as the other 4, and that some of us, not many, some of us marched. Nobody more valiant than your own mother, where you were wrongly convicted. What struck me is that even though some of us talked about we should go down and bring this up, you never went down in front of that court one time, never said a word during the trial, even though he called for your death. He never spoke out on all of the race cases in New York, but yours. What were you thinking when you looked down Center Street where you stood and saw this jury convict Donald Trump on 31 felonies?
You know, Reverend Al, first of all, thank you for having me. I want to first echo the fact that for many, many years, I called it the criminal system of injustice because of what happened to me and people just like me. And when it came to Donald Trump, I was very, very clear. I wanted to make sure that people understood that I wanted him to be afforded the opportunity that was not afforded me or my brothers. They looked at the color of our skin and deemed us guilty in a country that says you're innocent until proven guilty. Whereas when you come to the court system and you have a person who has been privileged and has used their money to garner favor, now getting to understand what exactly the criminal legal system is all about. I wanted him to be able to feel that, to see that, to experience that. And I was proud that our jurors, 34 counts, but when you think about the 12 jurors, each of them looked at all of the counts and made a decision to find this man guilty. And so I think that is significant. I think that number comes up to something like 408 different guilty charges, right, from 12 individuals. Profound. And for me, I was looking at this really with tremendous hope, with the opportunity to say to myself again, is this an opportunity for us to have a semblance of becoming the United States of America? Yeah, all of the rhetoric that Donald Trump has been spewing has been the exact opposite of that we are divided. We've been divided. We've been divided, I think, even more so under his so-called leadership. But now we get the opportunity to really, truly understand he is not like us. And that's not just a rap song. But the truth of the matter is that we've always had a love affair with Donald Trump. Some of my favorite hip hop artists, like Nas, he said, I want to be rich like Donald Trump and Marlon Maple. His father gave him a loan that was more than the money that we received from the state. And so we have to really, truly understand that. Where are we right now in this country when we read the Constitution, we the people? We were never considered a whole human being. They've never reformed that. And so for an individual...
Let me ask you this, Yusef, because we're going to be out of time. They're saying a lot of young blacks are looking to Donald Trump. Those young blacks watching you right now, as one who Donald Trump took ads out to take your life, what do you want to say to them?
I want to tell them, don't be tricked and hoodwinked and pulled away because you have an individual who is willing to speak in a manner that we have not heard before. There have been many people who look just like me, who have been willing to speak truth to power. But when you have a person like Donald Trump who is saying the same thing off camera, he's saying on camera, we got to pay attention. He is not like us.
All right, Councilman Yusef Salaam, thank you. I know you're in Atlanta and you broke in your schedule, but...
Ooh, that was a word. That was a word. Donald Trump is not like us. You know, he's not. And in this free-ish conversation, this is not a conversation about candidates for presidency, but I'm interested in seeing, after watching the injustices over and over and over again, right? We talked to the Innocence Project and other individuals who were wrongfully convicted, Marvin Anderson, and we heard his story and his fight and what was going on with him. I'm wondering whether or not Donald Trump will spend a day in prison. He was convicted of 34 criminal charges. You know, what do you guys think? Where do you think that's going to go? He's still a candidate for president. How do you feel about the idea that if he was Yusef Salaam, if he was me, if he was you, if he was Christopher Smith, if he was anybody else, the conversation would be much different. You know, he wouldn't be touring the country with his campaign. He would be behind bars and, you know, the world would have thrown the key away for him too. That feels like there's still a double standard. And on this Juneteenth, as we talk about free-ish, you know, we can't ignore the idea that we are still treated differently. We can't ignore the fact that 13% of the population represents 60% of those incarcerated. We can't ignore the school to prison pipeline. We can't ignore the amount of preschool expulsions for Black boys. We can't ignore how many Black boys and girls are suspended from school every single year. We can't ignore it. And it's hard to see. It's harder to see over and over and over again. I'm a parent, and I've been a parent for 30 years, which means I've been a school parent for 25. And I say all the time, like, I've watched the evolution and the breakdown of the educational system from resource officer that carried a walkie-talkie and nothing else to resource officer with a gun and a badge. That same officer that on the street was trained not to like me because my skin is brown. They were trained on the street not to like my son because he has dreads. They have been trained to demonstrate how much we fit the description. You know, we joke like all Black people don't look alike, but do we? To some. So are we really free? I don't know. I don't know. What you guys think? Do you feel free today? Do you feel free to get a loan? Do you feel free to make a mistake? Do you feel free to use your insurance to go to a therapist? Do you feel free to go on vacation and leave your kids home alone? Do you feel free to climb through your window just think, if you lost your keys? How free are you feeling tonight? Yeah. It's Juneteenth. We free. How free are you feeling? Check out this next clip. It resonated with me hard body because I've been that parent. Listen in.
Physical with the teachers as well. I be feeling like school could make you, not like your kids because they always calling, So, and that's what I be trying to tell Mimi, like, it's like things give me a reason to be mad at you.
Now, before we talk about the clip, don't judge me. Yes, I watch a little bit of Ratchet clips. I don't have a television, but I find the Ratchet clips on YouTube or on Facebook, and I will lose myself in them sometimes. And one of my favorite people to watch is Karamo, and I watch him because he is enough ratchet, enough messy, coupled with the education and some good advice. And he reminds me of myself. I'm a little bit ratchet, but I'm gonna give you some good advice. But in this clip, this mother is talking about her out of control 14-year-old daughter. And she says, school can make you not like your children calling all the time. And I remember school being like a source of PTSD for me. It was crazy because as soon as my phone would ring, my heart would drop. As soon as I saw the phone number for the school come up. And I can't be the only parent that has experienced this. Let me know, like, have you been there? Has your child been targeted, or has the school criminalized everything that your child has done? It's amazing how PTSD can be induced in your body anytime you see just a phone number come up across your phone. And I wouldn't want to answer it. And I would answer the phone so tentatively, like, hello, and it got to the point where teachers were like, no, it's not bad. It's not bad. Because that's how I sounded, because that's how I felt. I wanted somebody to call me with good news. I wanted somebody to call me and just tell me that my child did something good, that he or she accomplished something, and real talk, I've been called by schools so much that I've lost jobs. And it would be for some of the most trivial stuff. And it's like you feel like once something happens and your kid is targeted, now they have like this bullseye on their back, and you're just looking down the barrel of, okay, this is not going to end well. And so that clip really, really, really resonated with me. I'm interested in hearing if any of you guys have ever felt that way or experienced that. But man, oh man, I could tell you some stories. I remember when my oldest was in high school, and she's a good student, brilliant. Girl is brilliant, but she had a temper, and she didn't take any mess. And somewhere along the lines, the world started criminalizing children fighting. And not that I condone fighting, but kids do that. Most of the time, if the adults stay out of it with our adult minds and connotations, they will get back to being friends. They typically work it out by themselves. But instead of allowing that to happen, we now live in a world that brings parents into it and the police into it, right? And so now, not only do you have two children who are not getting along, now you got parents who are not getting along because I had to take a day off of work and now I got to come to school. I've been fined. I'm mad at you for being fined. Well, Kenya Girl, I see you in the audience. Man, let me tell you, this one time, my daughter had this fight in school. And I go up to the school. I sit down with the assistant principal and we have a conversation. The two girls talk. We tell them just stay away from each other. We dealt with the suspension. And 3 days later, my kid goes back to school. Not the first day that she's in school. The second day. She's in her honors class, sitting down in the front row, paying attention, doing what it is that she's supposed to do. And here comes that same assistant principal with the police. Take her out of class in the winter in Pennsylvania and tell her she's trespassing at the high school she's enrolled in. Put her out the building. Out the building. She calls my mother hysterical. You hear me? Now, this is not a crying girl. This is not a crying girl. She called my mother from the gas station across the street from the high school, hysterical, because she had just been put out. So I drive up to the school and lost all my religion. I walk in and I tell security to get the assistant principal. Security tells me I have to leave the building. My response was, they don't pay you enough to deal with me today. I need you to get the assistant principal. So she comes down and she comes down with the same officers that had put my daughter out in the street. She said, and this is a Black woman, she said she was trespassing because I did not come to school to do a reinstatement meeting. Baby. So the hour and a half I spent in the school the day she got suspended wasn't enough. Leaving work to do that was not enough. I had to come to the school to reinstate her despite that conversation. And because of that, you put my kid out on the street, issued me an $850 fine. That's not hers to pay. It's mine to pay. Because I didn't come in for a meeting that I didn't know about. And then said she felt threatened and tried to get an order of protection to ban me from being able to come on the premises of the high school where my daughter was enrolled. Ladies and gentlemen, this is fact, not fiction. This is a true story. This happened in Reading, Pennsylvania. So now I have to go to court to fight the fine. I got to go to court to fight the order of protection. And I'm supposed to send my kid into this school building every day where this is the assistant principal that she had to deal with. I told that assistant principal that day, I said, listen, I might not have a house. I might not have a job. Me and my kids might be living in a cardboard box in that same gas station that my daughter called me from, but you're going to be afraid to leave this building every day. And those words were wrong. I don't share that story to glamorize or glorify the words I chose in anger that day. But I do share that story because when I listened to that clip with that woman who said, school will make you not like your children, it takes me back to the trauma and the drama that both of us experienced that day. Because now I'm asking her, couldn't you have walked away from that fight? Right now I'm making something that wasn't my daughter's fault, her fault. Because there are all of these things that have snowballed from that. And what's sad is that my story is not unique. I can give you a story like that for all 4 of my kids. It's not unique. So it's so hard. It's so hard to even manage your kid in school. And it's incidents like these that tell us, teach us, inform us, and make us hyper vigilant because we know the school to prison pipeline is real. So I'm going to ask you again as I pull up the next clip, are we free or are we just free-ish? Listen to this.
Is defending its decision to suspend a Black student for more than 2 weeks over his hair.
That student's name is Daryl George. He's just 17 years old, and as you can see, he has his hair in twisted dreadlocks. The school first suspended Daryl at the end of August and then just suspended him again yesterday.
All of this is despite a new law in Texas that just took effect. It's called the Crown Act. The acronym stands for, quote, create a respectful and open world for natural hair. And the law prohibits racial discrimination based on hairstyles.
NBC News correspondent Rahima Ellis covers education for us and joins us now in studio. So, Rahima, first off, how is the school explaining their decision right now?
The school says that they are following the student handbook, and the handbook says that students are not allowed to have hair extending below their eyebrows, their earlobes, or the top of their T-shirt. And it's important to take a look at the picture here. This young man's hair is up. His mother said he has not worn his hair long since he started in school, and therefore they're wondering what the school is doing. We have a statement from the school that says the Barbers Hill ISD, which stands for Independent School District, dress code is not in conflict with the Crown Act, and that's from the Communications Department. The Crown Act, as you were saying, Kate, it says that no one is allowed to discriminate against someone, whether in the workplace or in the school place, based on their hairstyle or the texture of their hair. And that includes, and they specifically say, that includes afros, that includes dreadlocks, and that includes twists. So school is saying one thing and the law seems to say something else.
And I'm sitting here wondering, does the family have a lawyer at this point or anything? Because when you start talking about laws, you wonder if a family might decide to take some legal action. That hasn't happened.
Well, good thing you're wondering, because they do have an attorney who is speaking for the family and who is saying that this is definitely something that the family is going to fight, that they're going to fight vehemently. As you can see, again, I think it's so important that we keep seeing this young man's picture because it seems to be in stark contrast to what the school is saying. His hair is not below his earlobes. It is not touching his shoulders, but it is up. And in fact, we have something from the family, a soundbite from the mother talking about the impact this is having on her child.
I want them to change their policies. I want them to stop being discriminatory against Black and brown kids. His grades are failing, like they're going down drastically. He's not getting a proper education. He's not getting the proper instructions.
I'd like to go back to class and do what I need to do to get my education.
And besides that, he hasn't been able to participate in any extracurricular activities, no sports activities, because he is on suspension.
That is so.
Wow. So this family has to get a lawyer to defend how this young man is wearing his hair that grows out of his head. And bigger than that, we have to have a law that says if I want to wear my hair like this, like that, you can't discriminate against me. You can't tell me I have to press my hair, I have to relax my hair, I have to perm my hair. You can't tell me I have to do those things. You can't tell me that how my hair grows out of my head is not professional. But this school, this independent school district, and I'm going to get back to that because independent school districts in Texas matter. They are significant for a reason, right? They're significant. They are significant because each ISD, each independent school district has their own superintendent, their own school board, their own bylaws, their own policies that they follow. One is different from the next one. And it's interesting that they said that they're not in violation of the Crown Act. And even more interesting is that they are being permitted to absolutely ignore it. So since this news clip aired, this young man was expelled from school. And so now we have a 17-year-old who's not getting a proper education. He's not learning. His mother is on the news instead of hugging her son. This mother is summoning a lawyer instead of having her son in school, in class, and planning for his prom and graduation. And all of those milestones that we should be able to celebrate with our children, that we should be able to honor in their purity and their simpleness. This young man is not experiencing that. He can't play basketball. He can't play football. He can't go to a school dance. He can't sit in the cafeteria with his friends. He is now ostracized and the subject and topic of all of what's going on simply because he has dreads. The whole family is affected. The whole community is affected. But what should this young man now do with his trauma? Like, the drama has caused so much trauma in his life, and it's heartbreaking. He's beautiful. Why is it that so many don't see our Black sons in the beauty of exactly who they are? So I was free to birth them, but am I free to raise them in the way that I want to raise them? To teach them to be authentic? Do they have to code switch? Do they have to change their appearance? Do they have to hide their face? Does their voice have to change when they're talking to certain people? Is that truly freedom? Is it? I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. It really is heartbreaking. You know, whenever you're watching this, whenever you're there, I want you to come back and I want you to tell me some of the experiences you guys have in school. These are the stories that lead to the other heartbreaks, right? Mob United is proactive. We want to abolish all of this stuff because we never want to be the moms who are mourning, right? We want to be the moms who are celebrating. But this is where it begins. So you extinguish the light in this young man's eyes, and you've told him he's not good enough. He doesn't look good enough. He ain't good enough to be in school. You're undereducating him. You're ostracizing him. You're expelling him. You are making him a spectacle. And then when he starts feeling like he ain't worthy enough and becomes a young man on the corner, now he has police contact. A young man on drugs, now he has a habit. A young man who doesn't value his body, now he has 100 girlfriends. A young man who devalues education, now he doesn't feel the need to go to college. It's a cycle. It's a cycle that we have to stop. We have to stop it. And if you can look at a 17-year-old boy and do that to him, almost criminalize how he's wearing the hair that grows out of his head, what is to stop you from looking at him when he's 35, 40, 45 as so much less than what he really is? And don't tell me it can't happen, because we've seen it over and over and over again. Those are the hashtags, right? Those are the hashtags that we see over and over and over and over again. That's where it starts, ladies and gentlemen. It starts with being told you're too hyper. Give them a pill. It starts with don't wear your hair like that. Don't dress that way. Don't speak that way. You're too dark. You're too light. Your hair is nappy. You should do something with that. You're too fat. You're too skinny. That's where it starts, where they start to dehumanize our Black boys, when they start to dehumanize our Black girls and start to instill in us that we are not good enough for the world that we were born into. And it happens so much that then you get a man that's under somebody's knee, crying for his mother with his last breaths, screaming he can't breathe. That's George Floyd. In 2020, George Floyd ignited this world. And I'm so sorry that it took his life to do that. And I'm even more sorry that George Floyd is not the only one. That's the heartbreaking part. The heartbreaking part is that he is not alone. If you can imagine the mansions of heaven filled with people who were killed in this way, it would have to be huge. And it's sad. As a proactive organization, we want to support legislation that goes forward, that has the potential from sparing us and our constituency from being like the George Floyd family, like the Ahmaud Arbery's family, like, Tyree Nichols' family. We want to celebrate with our sons and not be forced to celebrate in their absence. And so, as we did in 2021, Mob United supported the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. And I am happy to say that that same legislation has been reintroduced. It has been reintroduced to us, and it was reintroduced by Sheila Jackson Lee. And I want to pull it up. I want to pull up some information about it. So give me a minute. If you got questions, throw them in the chat while I look for the specific information about the Justice and Policing Act, because I think it is important that we look at it and how it has the potential to really make a difference in our lives. It's still sad to me that we have to create laws and bills to save ourselves in some ways, you know. But this is our reality. This is our world. This is the work that we're doing. But here is Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, who reintroduces the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act to address law enforcement training and mitigation measures to reduce deaths related to police stops. So this is it right here. And Mob United will continue to support this act. We will be releasing our official statement in this. But how do you feel about it? You know, the idea that we have to mitigate being treated as human, or mitigate being treated as less than human with a law that says don't kill me, don't kill my son, don't kill my daughter. Even if you have to arrest me, even if I am wrong, can you please treat me like a human being? Like, how do you feel about that? I don't know how I feel about that. No, I do. I'm angry about that. It's why I do the work. Like, just the whole idea that I have to mitigate being treated inhumanely. That's crazy to me. I want to jump to the ACLU's response, because they had something to say, and I was shocked. Not really shocked, but I was again saddened by what that looked like. And it says, the American Civil Liberties Union welcomes the reintroduction of this important legislation. However, the ACLU calls on Congress to strengthen and improve portions of the bill to provide the federal interventions necessary to address police misconduct and brutality. And some of those things are the fact that you can get fired from one police department and go work at another one. There's no governing body. You can be hurt, injured by police officers in custody, but it not be a police shooting, and nobody nowhere has to indicate that. This was the sentence that really stood out to me, or the paragraph. Nearly 4 years since George Floyd's murder, systemic racism and disproportionate use of lethal force continue to plague America's approach to policing. Police killed at least 1,247 people in 2023. I'm going to say that again. 1,247 people were killed in 2023, more than any previous year on record. So far this year, there have only been 9 days where police did not kill someone. Black and brown individuals, LGBTQ plus individuals, and individuals with disability are still more likely to be killed or harmed by police in America. But today you tell me I'm free. Today, the United States wants me to believe that I am free. But am I? Are you? Are my children? Will my grandchildren be? Or are we just free-ish? I don't know. That's on you. It's your call. I can't call it. It's on you. Thank you. Thank you for letting me vent. Thank you for listening in. Tune in the next time. I got something on my chest that I want to release. You know, today I'm going to celebrate anyway because I'm free-ish. You know, I'm going to take what I got right now, but I'm going to keep on working for better because I want to be free in all of its glory. So happy Juneteenth, y'all. The day of free-ish.